Tackle Junkies, what's going on everyone? Really appreciate you guys and gals clicking on the video. In today's video we're going to discuss the line rating on fishing rods. Now, just like every other morning I get up, I respond to my YouTube comments, but I've seen the same comment come up a few times this week. This guy asks, his rod line rating is 8 through 14 pound test, but he wants to run 16 pound. Is that a bad idea? You totally can run a heavier pound test than what the rod is rated for, but you do need to know what that means. So the best way to explain this is to kind of like paint you a picture, tell you guys the scenario here, all right? This rod is rated for 8 to 17 pound test. Let's say I'm going to pitch some wood 15 to 20 foot from me, all right? Some laydowns, some brush, some stumps, 15 to 20 foot from me. I'm going to run 25 pound test fluorocarbon on this rod. Heavy duty flipping hook, a reel with a real stout drag, 18 to 20 pounds of drag, and I'm going to lock it down, okay? I'm going to pitch over to that wood. I'm going to set the hook on what I believe is a bass, but really it's a stump, okay? I only have that 15 to 20 foot of line out, so really not enough stretch and that amount of line to absorb the shock that this rod is about to take, especially if you're one of those guys that sets the hook like you're trying to rip the face off. I mean, it's a done deal. You're going to shatter your rod. At that point, it comes down to the weakest link. So the stump's not going to move. Your line is much heavier than the rating. We're hoping those flipping hooks don't bend out. Sometimes they do, but let's say it don't. Your drag's locked. At that point, the weakest link will break. And if your pound test is higher than the rating, the rod becomes the weakest link. Now, same situation, if you're running 15 pound test, the line would be the weakest link. The line would break before the rod. So you can totally run a higher pound test than what the rod is rated for. Just keep in mind, if you're in a situation like I just explained, there's a good chance you could shatter your rod. I mean, for the most part, I probably use at least to the max rating, if not higher, on majority of my combos, but I'm using that pound test for different reasons, right? Let's say like cranking, good example. You know, sometimes I might crank with 20 pound test. I'm not using it to lock drags and rip off faces. You know, I'm using it to control depth. So it really depends on how you have your drag set if you're going to be breaking your rod. And for the most part, for most guys, I don't believe it's going to be an issue at all. I'm sure a majority of guys are using at least to the max or even heavier than what the rod is rated for. It just depends really on your other equipment, the situation that you're in, how your drag is set up. So for the most part, I mean, you know what, I don't even think in 20 something years I've ever locked a drag down. I've never had a need to. I mean, I'm not fishing like gnarly cover and things like some of you guys are, but I've never locked a drag down, and I set it to where it just slips. I'm sure you guys can even hear that in the video. So I'll set the hook, it just slips. Not enough to where I can't bury the hook, but enough to where I know I'm not going to shatter my rod. So, you know, it is important to pay attention to the line rating, but it's even more important really to pay attention to how you're setting your drag on your reel. Real fast, we can touch on the minimum on this rod. It's 8 pound test. So if you run 4 to 6 on this rod, most likely you'll be breaking off fish. The rod's a bit too stiff for that lighter pound test. Now, of course, it comes down to the drag. If your drag is super smooth, you may not break a fish off. But like I said, you at least want to meet the minimum rating on the rod. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to smash the thumbs up. Love you guys. We will see you guys on the next one.